Hey Gearholics out there, it's me Gearholic here, and I'm coming at you guys with a new review. Today's review is going to be over the Swiss Army knife or Victorinox Hiker, which is an excellent blade. The 2.6 ounce weight that it carries is definitely worth all the cool gizmos and gadgets that comes on it. I think that these are probably one of the best knives to carry in your pocket. You're not going to freak people out when you pull this out to use it. Most people carry other knives that are kind of tacticalized and all that. I usually carry two knives. One that I can use in kind of a more tougher role, and then obviously a Swiss Army knife, which I think is a really good tool to carry. And I'll get into all the functions and features of this after I give you guys some measurements. So the overall length is going to be 3.5 inches. The width is going to be 1.2 inches, and the height is going to be approximately 0.62 inches. They're obviously manufactured in Switzerland by Victorinox, and they do a really great job. Their knives are awesome. They're really bulletproof. They function generally well, and honestly, if you can pick one up, you'll never regret it. I think these run about $26 online on Amazon, which is not a bad price to pay. And so I'll just stop yammering, and we'll get right into all the gizmos and gadgets. All right, here we go. So the first item on the list here is going to be the Phillips head screwdriver. So that is located on the back of the blade. The Phillips head screwdriver is useful for many different tasks. Obviously for those Phillips head shaped screws or anything of the sort, it really is useful, and I have found no issues with using it, especially in some of the applications that I put it through. I think that it's one of those really multifunctional tools. I think it has other uses other than just being a Phillips head screwdriver. Of course, I haven't figured out what yet, but as soon as I do, I'm sure I'll let you guys know. So that is the Phillips head screwdriver. Next is the leather punch or awl. I think that this specific tool has a lot of capabilities because it can punch through more than just leather. I think you can use this on some mild plastics, especially if you're making holes in something. This would do a really great job, I would think, punching holes through materials other than just leather. But as a other option, it's a great survival tool to have if you have to make your own clothing out in the wilderness or repair something on your body. This is going to be a really useful tool to have, especially mending anything really. And because it has this specific eye hole here, this eyelet inside the actual punch, it makes it really easy for reaming or for sewing. Very rough sewing, but still functional sewing. And I think that's a really great tool to have on the hiker. The next item on the list is going to be the can opener. I think the can opener has a lot of capabilities. The specific can opener that I have here obviously has multifunctional usage. It's not just a can opener; it's also a small flathead screwdriver, and I believe this would also fit very small Phillips heads as well, is what I've been finding. And I haven't had any problems using it in any kind of task, especially opening up cans or anything. The only thing I had problems with opening up the can, and it may have been specifically the can, is I had a really hard time catching this actual hook right here on the actual can itself. So that is one disadvantage, I think, to this, is that it's so highly polished that it might slip off the can. But I think with time and usage and kind of abrasion, that'll just begin to grip. You could take some sandpaper and rough that up and make it a little easier to use as well. But its functionality is very simple and useful when using it. Normally I have a can opener laying around, but if I didn't, obviously I would be going to this first. So that's a good tool that's also on the hiker. The next item on the list is going to be the flathead screwdriver and can opener and wire stripper. I haven't tried it for stripping any wire, but essentially you would strip the wire right there in this little notch, this little V notch. I'm not sure how well it does yet, but as soon as I test it, I'll let you guys know. The bottle opener works amazing, and the flathead screwdriver works excellent as well. And the fact that it's kind of on a double hinge pin here, so that way you get two versions, so you can really torque down on whatever you're trying to screw by actually having it in this L position rather than just this straight position. It also works really good as as a prier or anything to like pry open like maybe paint cans or wax cans or anything like that. This is an excellent tool for that. I think it works superbly. I've been using it as such, and I've also used it a couple of times as just a flathead screwdriver as well. The next item on our list is going to be the small pen knife that we have located on the blade. It is located next to the large blade. I think this little pen knife is great for small tasks such as cutting open boxes or very small woodwork, if you had to do small detail work, and simply just to save the sharpness of your main blade or your larger blade. I think this functions really well at just those smaller everyday tasks. And you don't worry so much about dulling this because you have your main blade, which is going to be your sharpest one. But I think this is an excellent thing to have, especially as a hiker. You don't want to use your blade too much or your main blade too much, so it's always good to have a backup as well. So that is an excellent thing to have on your actual knife as well. The next two items that I'm going to talk about are the simpler items that kind of come with the actual blade itself. Obviously, there's a key ring, which I've attached a nightline cord to, so it makes it easier to find in the dark if you drop it or if you happen to set it down and forget where you put it. It makes it a lot easier to spot, in my opinion, and find. And then there's a toothpick, which they include, which has a nice little slot here that you can obviously just slide in. And it's a plastic toothpick. It's gonna not last forever. I would highly recommend washing it every time you use it, so you don't have bacteria. And then on the opposite side with the gray marker here is a nice set of tweezers. The tweezers, I think, function really, really well. And I think you could probably pull out very small splinters and whatnot with those. So I think those are very functional as well. Another thing that I just kind of wanted to note is that a lot of people have been talking about it. Underneath the Phillips head screwdriver or most corkscrews and in most Victorinox knives, there is a very fine, small hole located right next to right underneath the either corkscrew or Phillips head screwdriver. It is a small hole, and what I've done here is I've stuck a needle with a little bit of thread in there, and as you guys can see, I've put that needle in there, and it fits right in that hole. There's a small hole, you can see it here on the camera, very small hole there, and it fits a needle or any kind of pin very well into that hole. And then once you put it back in, you can close this, and the securing of the Phillips head or corkscrew secures the pin inside the actual handle of the knife, and I think that's a really cool functional thing a lot of people don't know about. The next cool feature I think that is the most important part of this entire blade is the fact that it has a really cool saw here. This saw is an excellent thing to have, especially if you're hiking. You don't know how many times that you could use a saw for even just the smallest things, whether it's cutting plastic or cutting wood. I think these things have a multifunctional role, and that is excellent. I think everybody should carry some small saw on them just because it's really useful. This is not just for sawing things. You can also make notches if you're doing any kind of woodwork. And I think the functionality of it is probably limitless. So that's a good thing to have. And I really like the saws. And in my usage of it, it's a very sharp. I don't know if you can resharpen it if it loses its sharpness, but I think that as of right now, it is super sharp, and I have had no issues using the saw blade in its role or function at all. So that's a really cool feature to have as well, and I really enjoy that. The last item on the list, and always the most important, is going to be the fixed or the bigger main blade that you use. I have found that this works really well. It takes a razor sharp edge. The stainless steel that they use in this Inox by Inox is really good steel. It does dull over time, so you have to keep it sharp, but it does not rust very easy. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to take care of it. You still need to take care of your blade and make sure that it's razor sharp. I have sharpened mine when I first got it in the box. It wasn't as sharp as I wanted it to be, so I went ahead and I sharpened it and got rid of that factory edge and made it razor sharp. And obviously, I've used it quite a bit, and it works really well, especially for any kind of small tasks. You just have to remember that it's not a main blade and that it is on a hinge, so it will fold back and cut your fingers if you don't treat it right. It's not to be batoned or anything like that. So you guys want to make sure that you're just very cautious when you use it, and always understand what you're cutting, how you're cutting, and where your blade is going to go once you're done through that cut. So getting through that cut. So that's one of those main things that I kind of wanted to illustrate with you guys. Well, guys, that's all I have for today. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. As I always say, be safe out there and try not to cut yourselves. I'm Gearholic, and I'm signing out.